All right. Welcome, everyone. My name is E.R. Anderson. I'm the executive director of Charis Circle. Charis Circle is a nonprofit programming arm of Charis Books, and Charis Books is the South's oldest independent feminist bookstore. We're so happy to be here with all of you tonight for Cliterati Open Mic. Tonight's feature is Hannah V. Warren in celebration of her book of poetry, Slaughterhouse for Old Wives' Tales. So we're going to kick it off with our usual open mic and then transition into celebrating Hannah's work as our featured poet later in the evening. But first, we bring up our hostess with the mostest, Karen G. Give it up for Karen G, y'all.
Yeah, I didn't realize Gilly. No, yeah, right. I'm so loud. It's so funny because my partner tells me I don't have an inside voice. And recently that was a thing that happened. I was like whispering to somebody, and then somebody, like the person I was talking about, like turned their head, and I was like, I was whispering though. And then she's like, and then I'm like, yeah, I've been to a lot of punk shows in my life. I probably can't hear so well anymore. Yeah. So, and then I sat down and I was like, oh yeah, there's still music coming through the amp. Oh, but now there's not. Now I can be back here and blast y'all. Okay. um, Next to the mic, I'm going to bring up Billy. Billy is next on the list, and I'm very excited because they've got a manuscript I started reading. It's so great. Okay.
Yeah, we got it. We got it. We're locked in. I used to go on road trips with Karen, and whenever you would have to meet Karen at a restaurant, it was easy to find her because you could just wait for anything funny to happen, and you could find her immediately. Karen is the loudest laugher I've ever heard in my whole life. Yeah, I do have a book coming out in late July, so July 14th. I'm very excited about that. I'm going to read some stuff from that, and I'm going to read some stuff from last month. It's like 3 poems, very short. Um, this one is called Lexicon. As my body changes, I find a dictionary sewn crudely under my skin just below my rib cage. I curl back the flesh, let the molten yellow fat split and run like magma from the volcanic vent of this new steel slit cunt in my side. I find new meanings and new words and practice them in the mirror while I pick at my new wound, winding my clumsy tongue around the vowels and biting down on the consonants until I taste copper. Love becomes flensing, beauty becomes écorché, a kiss becomes wound, courage becomes hormone, courtship becomes impact play, the precious shiver of skin, of muscle and confidence, the thrumming pupa under my new gender beneath my hollow throat is called woman. And this one is so last month I just wrote a whole bunch of poems about my tits. Um, we're working on it. Just exclusive, just a barrage of tit poems. So this is one of those. So just put a parenthetical breasts at the front of all of these titles. So this is breasts while posing with a can of Coke Zero for a joke. I can't even remember the joke. Something about Warhol or advertising or my willingness to be naked at the drop of a hat, but all I remember is that the joke wasn't very funny but was well received. And for once, my body is not the punchline. For once, a pose is meant to accentuate. For once, a posture is not self defense. For once, the Coke can is the coldest thing in my chest. For once, I can feel my heart beating against the aluminum. For once, I take a picture of myself naked and do not shrink away. For once, I do not blame lighting or out of focus or any of the thousand arrows loosed in a volley of barbed excuses to shred the tension and explain why I do not send it. For once, I take a picture and send it. For once, I wait for a reply and smile. For once, nothing moves my body but laughter. And this is my last one here. This is bathed in the light of a laptop after midnight. And again, parenthetical. Um, my skin flickers with difference. The only light in the room splashes my chest with purple and blue and white. I ponder this baptism, this insomnia-fused Van Gogh swirl as the TV show or movie or video about carpentry lights me up and lands on the flatted cups of my nipples as I lay down on my back. I know it is frivolous, a brief whisper of thought and appreciation for the color and my body and my breasts, and then the realization of all the sleepless nights, just like this, where I never thought of my body, my breasts, my color, where it felt like all those nights, even with the laptop on max brightness and the TV blaring the TV show or the movie or the video about carpentry, in spite of all that, it felt like there was no light at all. Thank you.
That's awesome. V. Okay. And what is it? Gamma? Garmakowski. Okay. All right. And you haven't been here before? You have been here, or just you've never been here before. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Okay, so I'll start off by saying this is my second poetry reading ever, and this first one. The first one was online too, so I'm really out of my element here. But this one I picked out as a golden shovel poem off of a friend of mine's poem. So I took like 2 lines of hers that I really liked, and the ending words of all of them, follow those 2 lines. So unmuffle myself here. This one's yeah. This one's called Side of the Road, Kentucky. Okay, you didn't get it, but you got so close. For anyone else, that would be enough. But you don't stop motor hot all the way to Podunk, Southern Illinois, dispos lit up like Vegas. It was cruel of me not to warn you about that. Look at you now, round eyes pink from motel chlorine, bruises on your knees, galaxies in green and purple tints, something riding high on one big shoulder, the wounds of that good Catholic boy misted red off into the air. You drive a hard bargain, but you just can't close. I'd probably take you up if only I had enough. Hell, I'd drop you back in the holster if only I wanted to. You throw the family Prius in park, just west of nowhere, blood so thick with envy and misplaced affection that I could catch it on my tongue and coat my throat till I feel like I could spit enough to top up the jerry can. Your teeth are throwing off sparks that you can't see. You rend supple lover girl flesh, get your fill and then some. Raise your sad boy muzzle and bitch onto indifferent stars. Thank you, thank you. Then I had one other one. It's a short one. This one's called a Weird Looking Dog You Got There. Are you in a headspace to receive news that might hurt you? Did you really dig it, or were you just kind that one time? You stuck my name in your mouth, tried it on, and oh god, then I kind of wanted to be your dog, just lying around by your side, licking your legs like, hey buddy, I'll lick my way up to God one of these days. Thank you.
Few people got in after the list came up here. Does anybody want to do something or check in or? Yes. Hi, come on up.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tia. This is my first time ever doing any of this type of things. I like to call myself a singer-songwriter, at least, to pretend I'm one. I can't really do instruments though, so I'm just gonna sing something a cappella for you. This is a song called Daylight. It's about well, being isolated for a long time, really hating yourself, and trying to find a way to not hate yourself. The first verse is just kind of that, and the second verse is a little like metaphorical exploration of my pre-transition life. So that'll be nice. All right, give me a second. Let me do my thing. No, I never fell in love with no city, no matter how pretty. I'm wishing I could see another century. Fast forward to the ending. I'm miserable, I'm lonely, and I'm empty. Don't waste my time. I gave my heart with no condition to a 10 pace. Then she left my side. Think I lost track somewhere on the byway sideways. Living in a fantasy, can't you see my pain? Pharisees bury me, wonder what would Christ say? Now my brand new name feels just like a bloodstain. Tia, the goddess, is really a flawed bitch. You won't ever see her in the daylight. Tia, just stop it. You felt it. You thought it. Alone is what you on it for the meantime. Tia, the goddess, your beauty is dauntless. Trapped within the holes inside space-time. Tia, you got this. No, you never lost it. Time to find your way back to the daylight. Daylight, daylight. Time to find your way back to the daylight. Daylight, daylight. Put my trust into him and he let me ask now. Burn a hole colder than I pass out now. Childhood trauma trigger bad sounds. Sadness give me ecstasy, don't let me freak out. Cocaine found a home in my membrane. I need to see the sensei now. When she purified me, felt the wind break. Then I made my vow. I don't know how I fit into the end game anyway. Let the gods damn me, I'll be banished in the end phase. Pharisees bury me, wonder what would Christ say? Now my brand new name feels kind of like foreplay. Tia, the goddess, is really a flawed bitch. You won't ever see her in the daylight. Tia, just stop it. You felt it, you thought it. Alone is what you want for the meantime. Tia, the goddess, your beauty is dauntless. Trapped within the holes inside space-time. Tia, you got this. No, you never lost it. Time to find your way back to the daylight. Daylight, daylight. Time to find your way back to the daylight. Daylight, daylight. No, I never fell in love with no city, no matter how pretty I.
Thank you so much. I feel like that's extra super brave to have like no instrument either. Like that's extra awesome. Thank you so much. Oh, that was awesome. That was awesome. Is anybody else? Or we could get into our feature. Get into our feature with Slaughterhouse for Old Wives' Tales, which is like such a great title. And then I started skimming poems, and I'm like, yes, body and rocks and apocalypse and good things. So yes, I'm looking forward to hearing your set of poems. So please welcome Hannah V. Warren up to the stage and the mic.
Hey y'all, I'm so excited to be here. I've been sitting and marveling about how this is such a welcoming space, perhaps one of the most welcoming spaces I have ever been in terms of poetry, which is really radical and kind of uncommon in like the professional writing world. Like everyone is, can I say bitches? Everyone is like every now and then kind of bitches, you know? And so it's really lovely to be in a space where everyone is really supportive beyond the norm. I did write down a couple of lines I really loved from the open mic, and I wanted to share them with y'all just to reiterate how cool you are. We were always feral. Redneck crotch inferiority. Sister, starts like a promise. Still cut cunt in my side. I ponder this baptism. Round eyes, pink from motel chlorine, sad boy muzzle, lost track somewhere on a byway. I know, these are so good. I'm so excited to be here. I have a section of this book that's called Divinations, which I thought would be really appropriate for this place. This just feels like a place that's kind of surrounded by magic and otherworldly spaces and divinations. And so I'm going to read a few poems from that section in particular, which I don't often read in public. I usually go for a section that's about like dinosaurs and childhood trauma, or a section about like apocalypse and childhood trauma. So now I'm going to read about divination and childhood trauma. Divinations. Count the divots in your rib cage, little frozen chisels. Name them ligament by ligament. Tear out your intestines and feed them to the snakes. Claw a whole pit of fanged greed. Invite the vipers into your womb. Leave the lights on when you're home alone, even if no one can hear you crying out in the dark. We live with the horrors of our own bodies, ornamented machines gnawing into the future. We may as well feed them dried plums and pretend to love our young. Beneath the cloud shadow murk, we crack open our skulls and listen to the stars move. When your tea leaves formed a circle, you reconsidered God. You can always wash your hands of this biological stalemate because you don't need to be so moral and virtuous. You don't need to hold your body pinned still as your mother brushes hair from your forehead and says this is all she wants from you. She tells you stories of her great uncle who died in a collapsed mine, the grandfather who mangled his hand in a cotton gin. She tells you, our people are broken, and says this is all she wants from you. But you imagine stray resilience. You can look straight into the sun. You can pull your navel toward your spine, a string inside you wrapping around your colon and appendix before forming a cluttered knot at the base of your needled backbone. You can plant your elbows when you lie in the bramble bushes behind your home, dredge up some old dandelion memory, wisteria funk in a layer of cumulus clouds. You can suck in your breath so hard you almost swallow your skeleton shadow. In these plucked dry days, you can break the sunlight like a crust and leave it for the scavenging birds. Developing some desire for more than yourself. Your mother lives in your hips like a benign tumor, telling you where to tilt your thighs and how to remain pure on a bed of glass, or how to get clean before meeting God. You penknife your body from ribs to pelvic floor and divine your spilled intestines. From the ground, they whisper that you should start the war yesterday. A hurricane cracks out of season, night siren and wind burst. You lump everything together, dust and your own gutted spatter. Feed it by hand back into your stomach cavity, stitching yourself together with needle and feather reed glass until you feel whole again. Your mother nestled in child's pose against your ilium. You put your hair in your mouth, the same color as your mother's, mint leaf and rotten vanilla taste. You're a misfit, a misnomer, a misfortunate malady, and you don't want to create more fodder for spiritual discipline, lost in the chewed linoleum. The fire ants in your belly feel trapped, and they gnaw at your liver, wanting to know if they are alive inside something else alive. Your hair crumbles down your throat like dried oleander, and you promise you will not live in the same house for another day, but there are no more vacancies in this world, and the sky is dotted silver. Your mother pushes your womb with both hands, searching for fable, and everything is empty. And you want everything to remain empty. The glassy blooms are tempting and unkempt, but very seldom is a large garden pruned all at once. Thank you. propagating the tendons in rheumatic joints. You crush the root hair of bluebell against your cheek. Press it to your wounds, the gash in the soft of your earlobe, claw marks on your hips. You bear the rich laugh of a Bible salesman and wonder what about yourself is real or what parts sustain fiction. The bulb glues your hands together and you pray, steepled violets sticky, plucking ticks from their flesh furrows. This is how you stitch skin for a map, leading to what comes before the body in unbelievably destructive dimensions. You compress royal fern, fold in all the leaves, faint smoke smell inside your chest, and you burn into the woodland. Propagate pulpy torso, wind blow seeds in your ears, blossom sprouts in your rib cage. A cornucopia of Southern Gothic materials, stem and bulb and swamp, unconscious but writhing in their contaminated streams, unaware of their auxiliary mouths. Now we're going to talk about cannibalism. Divining the future through auto-cannibalism. The lines on your hand will lie to you. They'll promise tender apologies and a vegetable garden and a husband with soft hair. But this world isn't one for slanting the truth. In tall grasses, the rat snake slides up to her brother and expands her jaws wide. She slinks his tail down her gullet, only to realize she swallowed her own spine. Don't make a mistake. This is not eternity, but rather the gut-dry feeling of being alone. Even the short-tailed cricket grows weary of her night calls and slices the violin legs from her body. She places them in her mouth for safekeeping in case she misses the sound of her own voice. What I'm trying to say is, parts of you will disappear. Your fingernail clippings pile like mouse bones in the corner. Your hair weaves into a pillowcase. Someday soon, you'll cut new lines into your hands and erase the old ones with the rough of your tongue. I went through this period of writing horror poetry, and most of those poems ended up in this book, and it was a pure delight, but they're also really gross. The name of this one is Echo. At night, your reproductive organs begin to rot foul and yellow. You lie on your bed face down, your tongue twisting in your throat, while your cells slip to dust. You think your never conceived children visit when your eyes are closed. You can hear their voices, low and scrambled, in the hallway as your pelvis hums a rhythmic healing whisper. Your navel is shallow in memory of its own parting. You remember how you shook with the cold. Your children bang their arms against the wall sometimes, their small limbs fragile and mostly unformed. You ask them to leave, but they stay, growing and growing and growing. If you listen closely, you can hear their whimpers curling around your doorway like the wet stench of a slaughterhouse. Macabre homecoming. We've all heard stories of people who've turned around or looked back, their eyes crusting with salt, their hands slipping nimble as their wife's hair turns to flame. What's happening here is something different. You can't look back because there's nothing to find. Only revival and a gap in the king cake where the infant Christ melted into a puddle of multicolored wax. Your eyes will waver over an emptiness. Thank you for thinking that's funny. I think it's really funny too. Your eyes will waver over an emptiness, and you'll remember when the vacant lot was once a gas station or a paper mill or your grandmother's childhood home, but all the insides are gone. You'll want to crack the streets in half, letting the sunlight burn the earth for the first time in years, to plant a centuries-old forest in your lungs, alienated and disturbed and gorgeously decomposed. I'm going to read one more poem that is not from this collection, but that I thought would work very well, particularly at this reading. So I'm really excited about it. But first, thank you so much for organizing ER. Thank you so much for hosting, Karen. This has been really, really lovely. Ode to Women's Arms in SF Television. Oh, wrist bone. Oh, ring shadow. Oh, thin lined tattoos, swirling florals, cutthroat and envy. All muscle and smooth and tucked elbow and little cat scratch scars. Rind of blade and whistle, a sharp taloned fledgling, oh, sublime sweat. We measure our time with your sunburns, balloon puff, and water vesicles. What does it mean to tongue blistered skin? To feel it burst honey scab in our gums? Oh, frostbite fingernails, oh, knuckle bones, oh, gemstone wilderness, clavicle cavity a little dipper, filled with the stock of our gut stretch wombs, muddied horse flank warm as nectar. Oh, tank top, oh, intergalactic grass stain, oh, blooded bat teeth and collected trauma, drip of rhinestone reminding us the world is never different beginning or end, just ghost and heat, copper taste and gourmet wounds, never deeper than a pinprick. Thanks so much. Also, please come talk to me. I want to talk to you all about your poetry. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have pens, so we can sign, get our books signed, and have conversations. Yes, and thank you, ER. Thank you, Charis, for facilitating this awesomeness. And we will be back next month. Are there other announcements we want to be making?
We will be back next month. You can buy Hannah Warren's book up front.
Mhm.
We would love for you to purchase a copy. And yeah, stay safe and well until next time.
Yes, definitely.
Thanks so much for being with us. Have a great night.